Hi Michael, welcome to the Bearded IFA. You are my next guest.
Hello, how are we? You alright?
I'm good, and importantly, I'm really excited about chatting to you. So, today's episode is going to focus on Michael's new Morbid episode that's coming out. So, look, before we go down that route and explore how the hell you start filming an episode for a sitcom, just give everyone a quick bio. Who are you? What do you do?
So my name is Michael. I'm a filmmaker and video coach, and I've been creating films for the last 14 years. I started off as a professional actor, doing a few bits on television and theatre, and then doing a lot of amateur stuff. And then I started making my own comedy characters. I started writing comedy. Back in 2007, I had an idea for a sitcom in the field directors. The script stayed in an attic for 10 years. Then we filmed a pilot 7 years ago. So I'm a actor, comedy writer, filmmaker.
Why comedy?
Because I think comedy is the hardest thing and more than the most human thing that people relate to. I mean, you could be going through hell, and watching good-hearted comedy can really kind of bring you out of your shell. I think the world as well is can be a very dark place, and so comedy is a great way to relieve us of the daily pressures. And when comedy's done right, it can break down boundaries and change people's perceptions on life. And it's such a powerful, emotive thing. And I think that's what I like about it. It's the fact that it can make you feel like you can climb a mountain. And that's what I love about the magic of writing comedy.
Yeah, I love comedy. I'm sure if you ask any of my team, they'll tell you that I've based my management style on Ricky Gervais and David Brenda.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So I'm a big fan of comedy. In particular, what I liked about Morbid, because yeah, I watched it years ago.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, every time I see your Facebook and talking about Morbid, I'm always thinking, when's the next bloody episode coming out? So I'm really glad it's recorded, but it's in production phase now.
Yeah, all filmed. And it's called Hey Presto. It follows 7 years after the pilot, and the actual storyline it follows a week or two after the pilot. So it's within the same universe and time, but we seem to have aged a lot within a week.
You still got hair.
It's still got hair. Yeah, I've still got hair, but no, it's Morbid's a hard thing. Obviously, I was filming Morbid in 2017, and I still wasn't full-time self-employed with Take The Cask Productions. It was still very much a job I did on weekends, after work or days off. I would film things and stuff. We're still working, part-time at Starbucks, working at the Film on a Call as a stage technician. And so, it was just as and when I could do something, I would do it.
I think a comedy based around film directors is pretty original. Is there?
It's one of those subject matters that I think is probably the easy option when people think, oh, let's write a comedy, what should we write about? I think the easy one is field directors, and then they go, yeah, but it doesn't really work. And I'm not saying it hasn't worked. We've had 6 Feet Under, which was America's version of a comedy based in the field directors. And then we had In Love in Memory we had that first back in the 70s and 80s with Thora Hird, Christopher Beanie, In Love in Memory. That was very well received. But again, comedy, humor, the landscape of when that was written to what we're trying to do now is completely different.
Yeah, I was going to say that, and I think there's a big difference between American comedy and British comedy, isn't there? Just look at The Office, as I described before. Big fan of it. I was a massive fan of the UK Office. I remember it coming out as a kid. I made an actual school version of it where you'd go into a classroom and say, this is where education happens. You turn your back and there's fighting going on in the background. So actually, this is where I think comedy sitcoms I naturally love, because I've always been interested in it. But then it took me about 2 or 3 seasons of the American Office to get it, to understand it, because at the beginning I was just comparing it. So I do think we have different ways of dealing with comedy between the UK and the US.
I mean, if you look at comedy over the last 20 years, so I wrote Morbid back in 2007. Now, bearing in mind that was 4 years after Friends had finished.
Wow.
So you think about, back there when I first had the idea to write Morbid, it was a case of I wanted to film an independent sitcom, 50% in a live studio audience with a pre-made set.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, that's how I imagined the show
So
to start with.
all that clapping and cheering.
Exactly.
And
Yeah. And then I realized that it got to about 2010, 2011. I was like, yeah, the comedies, it's kind of really moving away from that now. That canned laughter, that studio audience kind of style of sitcom is changing. We had obviously The Office, which changed the way we consumed sitcoms in the fact that, comedy dramas, docu dramas
Yeah,
would kind of be
Yeah, because they filmed as a fly on the wall, wasn't
fly on the wall kind of comedies. And obviously, British comedy is heavily sitted on awkwardness and that typical awkward moment, and we love awkwardness, and I think that's what we pride ourselves on. So fly on the wall documentaries, I think The Office was groundbreaking. But as we move on through the years, we've got shows like Detectorist, we've got Small Profits that was out last year or the start of this year. There is Afterlife that I think really changed the way comedy sitcoms kind of flowed. If you look at Detectorists and Afterlife, I think Morbid sits in between those two, whereas when I originally wrote it, it sat between Vipera Dibley and Father Ted. So when you actually think of how we consume comedy completely differently now, and how the show has adapted and changed, even though it's not come out and it's not been made, the show and the way in which we approach it is always changing with modern times. It's just a shame that it's not a shame actually, because I think had I have been given loads of money as a teenager and was like go and make this, it would have been awful. I think the show will be successful when all the pieces come together. When I've grown up a little bit more and had a bit more, I think to write good comedy, I think you've got to have a lot of life happen to you.
Yeah, life experience.
I think you've got to experience loss. You've got to experience, the highs and the lows of everyday life, running businesses or falling out with friends and family. I think those things really make you who you are. And I think when I first wrote Morbid, it was very slapstick. Let's drop a coffin. Let's put a body on the board sticker on the back of the hearse. Things like that, where I wouldn't do that now. I think I would be like, nah, I really want to move away from that humor. I want the humor to really be so subtle that you forget it's a comedy. I've always prided myself on when I've done stuff, and Elric, my co-writer, always laughs and jokes with me because I try to make things too serious. It's like, you're trying to write comedy. And I'm like, yeah, but it's got to feel real. You've got to kind of trick them into the real world, but then throw the humor in subtle. So I've always done that. Before Morbid, I filmed a spoof of Most Haunted called Scariest Places, and it was not just let's walk around in the dark and make loads of fart jokes. It was a case of let's go to real haunted locations, let's use the real stories, but when the historian comes on, he'll tell it in a very comedic way. And then when Mericalora comes on, my character that was based on Dekakora, he just comes in all guns blazing and it just says the most random, strange, bizarre things.
Yeah.
And so you get that sense of realism, but with the craziness just kind of unfolding.
I like that, and I like your point around how you've matured as an individual in terms of your style.
Yeah.
And it's gone from that slapstick to more drama based, and there's some comedy in it. Yeah, I like that. I find that interesting. You mentioned there, and you touched on the point around financials and having loads of money and how that might be easy, but maybe you produce something quite badly. Talk to me about the challenges of being a small business owner and finding the budget, because I didn't know this. You have to have a certain camera, certain specifications to be able to make it TV quality. What are the challenges of being able to do that?
I think, yeah, I mean, when we started this new phase of Morbid, we do heavily kind of depend on people supporting the show, because yes, it can get expensive with locations. It can get expensive with, you know, just paying people a bit of fuel to get to places, like get to sets, and making sure there's bottles of water and food for them, and you know, things like that can add up. And so I've always kind of said to myself, well, do you know what, you know, I will always try to buy everything I need for filming. But when it came to the camera, when it came to buying a new camera, it wasn't so much that we couldn't do it without the camera. It was a case of, right, we're going to do this now. And although what we film is not going to end up on Netflix, we want to have the first thing.
We don't know that.
It would be refilmed, I would assume, because a lot of the stuff is still independent. And it's like we were filming our new short, Hey Presto. Took us a full day, and there are scenes where, you know, you can see the windows are blocked out, so that the color temperature changes dramatically throughout that scene. Now, we can't afford more people to be outside blocking out the light. We can't control the light with big, massive, heavy lights that will be a continuous light. It's things like that, like
Right.
That's why production value is so high. It's because it's not. There are so many things that go in to keeping some. If you're filming over 5-6 hours, you need to make sure that everything is controlled and everything looks like natural light. So that's blocking out every single window in a house, making sure that it's the same temperature for a period of time, so that when you're filming, everything looks as consistent as if it happened over 4 or 5 minutes.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
I do, but then this links on to, again, another thing we were talking about before about this space. Just do it. We can add to it. We can tweak it. We just got to get it out there first of all. And I feel that maybe that's what you've got to do a little bit more of. Just get it out there. Right. It might not be perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
You could make the production value better, but sometimes people just need to see it to maybe attract that investment to take it to the next level.
And the thing is, we went back and refilmed sections of Hey Presto. We were working with Stan Boardman, who's very kindly given us, you know, a day of his time, a day and a half of his time. You know, he's 88 years old. He's had his career, and he knows very well. He's like, look, I like the idea. I'll give you a hand, and if I can help you in any way with any contacts I've got or my audience, then I'm happy.
How did that come about then, Michael?
Walking my dog.
Right.
Walking my dog. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And I Stan lives in Williston on the Wirral, and there's a country park called the Wirral Way that runs all the way from Hooton all the way up to West Kirby. So I take my dog with my mum after work some evenings up the Wirral Way, and I've been doing it for years. And I would see Stan many times walking with his wife to the pub or to Williston Village. And I'd always say, hi, Stan, how are you? So 7 years go by. I wanted Stan in the pilot, but didn't really know how to approach him. And then we started writing Hey Presto. And I said to Elric, I said, it'd be good if we could get Stan Boardman. And he was like, who? And then I was like, he had to Google it and went, I know you be. And so we got Stan, and he met up with me. I messaged him on Facebook and said, you might not know me, but I walked the dog on the Wirral Way. I've said hello to you over the last 7-8 years. I just wondered if you wanted to be in a little comedy sitcom. And we met up, and he said, yeah, I'll do it. Sent him the script. At 88 years old, he was brilliant, but it was hard because obviously I don't think he'd done that style of comedy before.
Yeah.
He wanted to keep looking at the camera. He wanted to perform to the camera. It's like, no, forget the camera's there. So then our performances then don't get the full attention because we're trying to direct and kind of get what we need from that. But he was incredible, like, for his age and the fact that he's done it for free. We're terribly grateful.
Yeah, and I think that shows a great level of initiative, and also the saying that I love: if you don't ask, you don't get. So if that opportunity, just go for it sometimes.
But it's like you said, you just go and do it, and I think going back to the finances, like, we don't need the finances to do it. We just need to try and piece it together with what we've got.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes it's like, yeah, but if we just had a bit of money, like, just a bit of a hand, because yes, you always want the best quality. Yes, you always want things to look like television, but you like I said to Andrew, who's the cinematographer, because I can't do everything. I'm acting and I'm producing. So Andrew Games has come in to film it for me. You know, it's just like, look, Andrew, yes, as creators, we want this to be incredible, but there's an element of it's independent. We haven't got the time. Are the characters believable? Are the jokes funny? Is the timing correct? If that is a yes on all three of them, the rest we will learn as we go along.
Yeah, get the basics right first. So when's it going to be out?
Well, I've just got to kind of
No,
link.
come on. We have
I'm-
viewers.
no, I
Everyone's
know,
watching,
I know,
listening.
but I'm linking up all the audio. Like, it is a night and day thing at the moment. We're recording with a boom mic and two hidden tip-on mics. So as you can imagine, 3 files, over 70 folders, all need professionally cleaning. So that's where we're at the moment. Most of the show is pieced together, but it's linking up all those audio files, and it's only me doing it in and around client work
And having a day job.
and our day job.
Yeah.
But
Well, roughly.
roughly, I'm hoping it'll be out next month.
Next month. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, that's
Which
soon.
is it? Well, yeah, because there's only cleaning up the audio, color grading it, and getting it out there. So yeah, because we want to be moving on to the next one, and there's things I've probably learned from this. I think what we've tried to do is with the sound, we've tried to sound as a full-time job with a sound engineer. And so I think next time, instead of filming it in 32-bit flow, I think I'd say, look, let's just get the boom mic, let's just film it. I'll clean up that audio from there, and we just, until we've got more people on the production and we've got the time, I think trying to take too many steps professionally is going to hinder us in terms of time. As long as, like I said, as long as it's funny, as long as the characters are believable, the rest will follow at a date.
Well, yeah, I think that's a good strategy. Talking the time, we've got a few minutes left because, our podcast episodes, 20 minutes, keep it short and sweet.
Yeah.
So, a couple of final questions or final thoughts, really. First one being, what's your hopes? So, we're in July, the episode's out, it's gone all over social media.
Yeah.
What's the dream? What's the hope from that?
The hope is that people connect to the episode. They remember the pilot. And it's funny, 7 years on, people do stop me and Elric and they say, oh, how's Morbid going? Are you still doing Morbid? For people to remember an independent sitcom from 7 years ago, it doesn't happen. I know deep down in my heart, there is a feeling with this show that I cannot explain. And I've always had it since I wrote that first script. Even when we filmed the pilot, weird things happen. It just feels like it's in the air. It will happen when it happens. And that's why I don't give up on it. Because I know it is going to happen. We've just got to keep proving the concept. We've just got to work. And instead of looking for money, instead of looking for finance and trying to find someone to go, we're going to do this by putting shorts out, getting people into this world, trying to get people wanting to see more. And all we've got to do is write, film, produce, and publish.
Yeah.
That's all we've got to do. And the rest will follow.
I think that's, again, the right strategy. Just get it out there, produce more of it. Don't worry about it being polished and finished.
The only hard thing is the fact that we consume content in different ways. And I think because it is still, even though they're shorts, it's still classed as a long form. So with people, doom scrolling over short form content, you're competing with that behavior. So it might take us longer, but again, if the characters are believable and it's heartwarming and there's a lot of pathos within the scenes, we will achieve it.
Last 60 seconds or so, one tip or bit of advice you'd give to someone listening, viewing us, wanting to do what you've done, which is actually put an episode out there and work on the second episode. What advice would you give them?
It would be a case of don't think of the rainy day. I think Morbid sat in an attic for 7 to 8 years before I actually grabbed it and did something with it, because my mum said to me, she said it was on Christmas Day 2017, I think it was, no, 2016. She said, if there's one thing I want to see before I die, it's Morbid. And I thought, you know what, like, I could be dead tomorrow and here's this script that the world's never seen, and I thought, you know what, just do it. Even if it's crap, just do it. And I look at the pilot now and I think, oh, I could do that so much better now. But it's progression. You've got to look at what you did and aim for better the next time.
Amazing advice. Go for it.
Yeah.
So look out on Michael's socials for Morbid. It's going to be out really soon. Next month, he says. Yes. That's the idea.
Yeah.
And thank you, everyone, for listening and tuning in. Hopefully this has been an interesting episode. Cheers all.